We are still quite a while away from the release of Black Ops 6 Zombies, and it seems like we know what the 4 Zombies maps are going to be in its DLC. There is a possibility as well, maybe we're going to be getting more maps than this. As you know, Treyarch have said that the very first map, DLC 1, is going to be releasing before the end of the year. So sometime this year, 2024, very soon after release, we're going to be seeing a new map. It could possibly be at the start of November with the release of Season 1. That is also going to be when the directed, guided version of the main quest will release for Liberty Falls as well as Terminus. I don't think it's going to be at the start of Season 1 though, because it's literally just going to be a couple weeks probably after release, since it releases on October 25th. I'm thinking it's going to be an earlier Season 1 reloaded than usual, and it's actually going to be in December, nearer to the end of the year, very close to Christmas, as there's going to be some sort of Christmas Jingle Hells event as well. Modern Warfare 2 also released earlier at the end of November, and it similarly had an early Season 1 reloaded in December. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing. But if there are only 4 maps, it means that at least at some point there's going to be some sort of big drought of content, unless they are evenly spaced. And if they are evenly spaced, again, it's going to be a bit of a gap between each map due to this earlier release date. Nevertheless, let's talk about the maps specifically. If there are only going to be 4 maps, it's very likely that we're just going to be playing as the crew that we have on Terminus, and Liberty Falls is probably an exclusion to the rule. The only map that is just going to be operators, hopefully the only map with a very bland atmosphere as well. I'm hoping that all of the DLC is of on the same caliber as Terminus, because that atmosphere is amazing, and Liberty Falls is just not it, unfortunately. There might be some secret spots in the Easter egg, but as far as we can tell, the regular town is pretty bland and boring, unfortunately. So like I said, I'm hoping that this is just a one-off map to try and get Warzone and multiplayer fans to play zombies. It's just the casual camo grind map, basically. But maybe the Easter egg is going to have a lot more to it. Now, whilst it seems that in the DLC maps we're going to be playing as the Terminus crew, I do hope they mix and match as well, and we're not just always going to be playing as these same 4 characters. Now, we do actually know, of course, you can play as operators on any single map, as well as the fact that the Terminus crew themselves are operators as well. You can boot them up in multiplayer, you can boot them up in Warzone, and you can even play as these characters on the other maps as well, such as on Liberty Falls, where they're not the main crew. It just means that that is non-canon, and they're not going to have Easter egg specific dialogue and storyline dialogue. If you select the set crew on Terminus, you'll just be getting exclusive dialogue to fill you in on the story, and they'll be interacting with the main quest. So I'm hoping in the DLC maps they do switch up the main crew. I also do hope that maybe they could even introduce more operators as the quote-unquote main crew. Maybe you can still only always play as 4 people, unfortunately, although it would be nice to play as a much bigger set of characters, considering we could play as 6 total in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. For example, I'm sure they're probably going to add Richtofen as an operator at some point, hopefully joining us as a set crew on one of the DLC maps as well. He has to be there at some point, and I hope sooner rather than later, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's right at the end of the story. Nevertheless, I hope whenever he is added, he's not just going to be an operator, and he's also going to have character, story, dialogue as well. Even if it's not necessarily canon, it would be interesting if he's more engaged than the other operators, because of course he's so important with the storyline. Anyways, I've kind of gone off in a bit of a ramble talking about the set crew specifically. Let's talk about the DLC maps itself. So the other day I posted a video regarding the fact that there was a bunch of leaks from the Steam strings. Yes, that's right, this is not actually even coming from the game files, it's coming from the Steam strings, which means it's more likely to be legitimate. Of course, it could still be misinterpreted, it could still be cancelled content, etc. However, the fact it was added into the Steam files I think makes it more legitimate, considering it's probably them preparing some sort of update in the future to be listed on the Steam store. And as you know, a classic mode was found, grief mode as well, which I'm so excited about. So hopefully there's going to be something for all types of fans. But the biggest thing is that DLC maps were actually found in the files of the game. Now, 4 different codenames for the DLC maps were found. However, I think I actually got them incorrect when I talked about it in the prior video, and I'll talk to you a little bit about why that is. So the first map that was found was called Janus Towers. The second map that was found was called The Keep. The third map that was found was called Dig or Dig Site. And finally, the fourth map that was found was called Mansion. So we know what 2 of these maps are. Mansion is, of course, Richtofen's mansion that we can see in the Liberty Falls intro cutscene. So many people have been complaining that this cutscene is very misleading because it makes Liberty Falls seem a lot bigger than it is, and people are very disappointed we can't play as Richtofen and we can't access this mansion. People were saying maybe we could go to the mansion in the Easter egg. We know Blanchard is, of course, camping out there as we're playing the map. However, it doesn't seem like we're going to go there on Liberty Falls, the map itself, but it is going to be a future map. I was speculating before, and now from the game files, it seems like this is definitely going to be the case. It is still possible, I guess, we could go there in the Easter egg, but I wouldn't imagine going in the full mansion. I would would you just imagine, you know, maybe we go in a specific room, grab a specific item, then teleport back, and it's kind of giving you a bit of a preview of a map to come. And the other map that we know what it is Janus Towers. I have to assume this is probably the towers that we see in the distance on Liberty Falls. So yes, it seems like we're getting at least 2 more Liberty Falls maps. However, you have to bear in mind, they're not going to be in the town specifically. The mansion, for example, is very aesthetically different to Liberty Falls, so they're not going to feel similar at all. And also the Janus Towers, we don't know how that's going to work. Maybe we can't even go outside the towers themselves. Maybe the entire map is just set in these giant towers, and Richtofen and Project Janus could have had crazy, wild experiments going on there. Maybe that was even where a lot of the zombie outbreak began initially. They seem very destroyed in the distance of Liberty Falls, all on fire, so the aesthetics may not be anywhere near what they are on Liberty Falls, the town itself. And the other 2 maps we really don't know. But let's talk about why I think I got the order wrong. So in my video the other day, I said that I think that Janus Towers is going to be the first DLC map because it's the one that is so prevalent on Liberty Falls. You can literally just see it right there in the distance, but you can't access it. And it's so detailed and so textured in. And by the way, I think that the dimensions are a bit off. I've seen some people on Twitter saying that these towers look really small. However, I think they are really large. I mean, if you look at this image, the towers literally take up half of the church, but the church is in the foreground, whereas the towers are in the distance in the background. And yet they still take up half the distance. So these towers, when you're actually up close, must be ginormous. So I think that this is going to be a big map and have a lot to it. And whilst I do understand that some people are concerned that we might be staying in Liberty Falls for some future DLC maps, like I said, I don't think they're going to actually be aesthetically similar to Liberty Falls and bland like this. You know, like I said, maybe we're not even going to go outside these towers. Maybe the entire map is in them themselves. Maybe we will go outside, but maybe the outside bit is just very different to what Liberty Falls looks like. It might not even be set in the same period of the day. It could be at night or whatever. So yeah, I thought that this was going to be DLC 1 because I thought that maybe the Liberty Falls Easter egg leaves us on a cliffhanger where we're about to head to another part of the town, and then we're about to be greeted by the Terminus crew. But actually, now that we know the other maps in the files of the game, it doesn't make sense for us to get 2 Liberty Falls maps, potentially Janus Towers and also Mansion, at the start of the DLC. Now, at Call of Duty Next, Kevin Drew did basically hint that the storyline's going to be about the Terminus crew trying to, of course, get closer to where Richtofen is. We know that Dr. Peck is trying to locate the coordinates of Richtofen during the Easter egg of that map. So I'd have to assume they're not going to come to Liberty Falls directly, and they're probably going to at least have 1 detour or 2 before they come here. So I have to assume Mansion and Janus Towers are probably the latter DLC, DLC 3 and 4, and the first 2 DLC are probably the Keep as well as Dig Site. So which one do I think is more likely to be DLC 1 out of the Keep as well as Dig Site? So I think most likely the Keep is DLC 1, and this is why. Now, unfortunately, the name The Keep doesn't really tell us much. From researching online, a keep can be a fortress of some kind or a castle, and we did actually have the Fortune's Keep Worsens map. So I've kind of taken that as a bit of inspiration as to what I think the map might be like. And this is purely speculation, but I think that if the Terminus crew manage to successfully escape the Terminus Island, they're then going to head to somewhere on the coast nearby. And maybe there is some sort of fortress or castle or structure. Maybe it's a Janus building or something like that. And they regularly take boats to and from this fortress and the Terminus Island itself, and transferring resources between the harbour and there, and all of these Dark Ether experiments. So I think it would make sense that in the Terminus Easter egg, we successfully rescue Maya's brother, and we start to learn a little bit about where Richtofen is, but we don't know exactly, and we need to then go to the nearest closest Janus location. Maybe there's a fortress nearby, maybe it's even set on another island similar to Fortune's Keep. Now, I don't think it's obviously going to be Fortune's Keep itself or somewhere near Fortune's Keep, because it is actually set in Europe, whereas of course Terminus is in the Philippine Sea, so it's literally forever away, so I doubt we're going to go all that distance, but maybe it's going to be somewhat aesthetically like Fortune's Keep. Maybe, like I said, it's going to be actually on the cliff or the shore. I would say maybe it could be on another island as well, but I don't think we would get 2 island maps in a row. That would be a bit strange. So yeah, I personally think the Keep is DLC 1. However, it could be Dig Site. Dig Site is the other maps that's been found. Now, with the name Dig Site, we kind of know a little bit more about what it's actually going to be like, and I have no idea what this could actually be. It could literally be anywhere in the world. So yeah, it could be DLC 1, it could be DLC 2. The reason why I think the Keep is first is, like I said, I feel like it's some kind of fortress by the sea, judging by the name, but I don't really have much evidence to go on there, which is why I think probably the Dig Site is DLC 2. Now, of course, Dig Site is literally in the name. It's going to be some sort of dig site, probably where Project Janus and Richtofen have been uncovering Dark Ether items and artifacts or something like that underground. And we actually already know exactly of something like this on Liberty Falls, which is again part of the reason why I think it could potentially be DLC 2 or one of the future maps. Again, I could be wrong here, I don't know the order, and I've already mixed it up once. But we know Richtofen, of course, had giant tunnels dug underneath Liberty Falls. We also do know that he has a giant T-Rex skeleton inside of his mansion that he probably uncovered whilst he was digging these underground tunnels for Project Janus. Now, I have to assume that these tunnels are also part of what makes up the elevator to go underground in the mansion to where the giant Forsaken Chamber is. But maybe there's many other buildings and facilities and tunnels, maybe even underneath the Janus Towers, could even be more tunnels and stuff like that. So maybe we're literally going to have 3 DLC maps also in and around Liberty Falls set around there, and this could be some sort of dig site literally there where maybe there's loads of ancient ruins and fossils that are being unearthed and uncovered and dark ether artifacts, etc. But again, it could be anywhere else in the world. Like I said, a dig site could literally be anywhere. So now moving on to the third map. I think that this is probably the Janus Towers map. Now again, I could be wrong. It could in fact be DLC 1 like I initially thought. It could in fact be DLC 2. But like I said, I feel like the Terminus crew are going to have to try and find the location of Richtofen, and they're probably not just going to find it out straight away. That would be too easy. So I think it's going to take them some time. They're going to have to go on a bit of a detour first before they head to Liberty Falls. The reason why I think that Janus Towers is probably going to be the map that comes before Mansion is because Mansion just makes sense to be the finale map, which I'll talk about in a second. So yeah, we don't really know much about Janus Towers. We don't know why they were built here. It's probably why Richtofen was having a load of metal transported into Liberty Falls, as well as to probably build the underground tunnels and upgrade the containment chamber, etc., and all of his underground laboratories. So yeah, we know very little about this map. So I think fourth and finally, I think the final DLC map is going to be the mansion where Richtofen is, so that the story can then come full circle. It's literally the thing that we saw at the start and then the thing that we see at the end. But the biggest reason why I think that it's going to be DLC 4 is because in the Liberty Falls intro cutscene, Richtofen got teleported away. Now, many people have been pointing out to me that he could have been teleported anywhere, technically anywhere in the world, but he's most likely been sucked into the Dark Ether by Samantha Maxis and or her AI or whatever is going on here. However, it would be odd for him to be sucked into the Dark Ether and then he ends up in some location completely miles away, somewhere completely else. I guess it is theoretically possible, but it would be strange because we know that the Dark Ether is just a reflection of our world. When we head into the Dark Ether on D Machine or even on Liberty Falls when we go to Pack-a-Punch, you're not just being teleported to some random location on Earth, you're literally in the exact same place, just the Dark Ether. It's literally just an inversion of our world. Literally in the Liberty Falls intro cutscene, you see it's just like the Upside Down from Stranger Things. When you go into the portal, it's just a flipped version of reality. Although you don't experience that in game, I think that's just because of gameplay reasons. However, storyline wise, that's basically what it's supposed to be, just like the Upside Down. So if he was taken into the Dark Ether, wouldn't he just be in the mansion itself? Well, he gets taken, I guess, whilst he's heading down the elevator to go to the underground lab, so most likely he's underground of the mansion. So I'm thinking, what if on this final mansion map, within the whole course of the DLC, we're trying to locate Richtofen's coordinates, and of course the Terminus crew, Weaver, etc., want revenge on Richtofen. Maya wants revenge for taking her brother, and when she finds out the fate of her brother, whether he's been killed or taken elsewhere, turned into a zombie, or maybe she successfully rescues him, but I don't think that's going to be the case, just because why would she then continue with us in the rest of the DLC? So all the characters basically want revenge on Richtofen, but I think by the end of the DLC, they're going to come to empathize with him and actually try and rescue him at the end, and they're going to come together to join forces to take on whatever evil lies at bay, and whatever caused this outbreak, whether it's Samantha, her AI, the Forsaken, the Shadow Smith, some sort of merger of all of them, I'm not sure. But Weaver accidentally killed Richtofen's family during a failed assassination attempt on Richtofen's life before Cold War Zombies events. And I think because of that, the guilt is eventually going to sink in, and that's going to be maybe part of the reason why they end up siding with Richtofen and try and rescue him. So I think maybe on the mansion map, you actually spawn in the mansion itself, or maybe you spawn in the garden area of the mansion, and then you actually head into the mansion. And as you're playing the map, you're going to be trying to get down into these underground tunnels, get into the elevator. We do know, of course, that Richtofen had to use ID recognition to access the elevator as the Janus director. So are they going to have to find a way to hack into this elevator, or maybe Richtofen could even be a playable character on this map, and maybe they rescue him, on the map before, and then they go into this mansion as the final map. I'm not sure, but I think it makes more sense that we're going to be trying to rescue Richtofen within the final map. And like I said, maybe we're going to then somehow find a way to get into the elevator, then get into these underground labs, etc. And the Wonder Wharf, of course, got broken by this purple smoke, etc. So maybe we're going to try and rebuild it as a little side quest, and that could be the Wonder Weapon on this map. And it might not even be the original Wonder Wharf. We might do some quirky makeshift upgrades to it. Because of the fact it was broken, we're going to have to make do with what we can find in the mansion, mansion to try and mend it, and maybe it's going to function differently because of that. So it's not just a one-to-one reuse wonder weapon. I mean, we've literally seen a couple of iterations of the Wonder Waff now, and we saw the one on Tag the Toten as well, so I wouldn't be that keen on seeing another one, but I guess this could be the wonder weapon on the map. And yeah, I think that's probably going to be the point of the quest, and maybe we finally successfully rescue Richtofen at the end of the story, and then he becomes an operator or joins us, or something like that, or he gets teleported away and then that leads into the sequel game, but that would be a bit of a blue ball. Now, Richtofen's mansion is basically set on top of the hill that we see above Liberty Falls. It was even mentioned in the blog, and we know that in the real-life location of Harper's Ferry, where Liberty Falls is based on, there is similarly a mansion right here called Lockwood Manor. I believe this is actually what Richtofen's house has been based on, his mansion, his manor, and you can see it's absolutely ginormous. So this is going to be a very big zombies map, and like I said, it's probably going to be very aesthetically different. To Liberty Falls itself, we might not even be able to go outside. Maybe it's just going to be all inside of the mansion and the underground section, and this could be a good story setup, is that maybe over the course of the DLC, the outbreak in Liberty Falls gets worse and worse, and obviously right now in Liberty Falls, lots of people are complaining because it's so bright and sunny and the atmosphere is so dull, but maybe over the course of the DLC, it gets worse and worse and gloomier and darker, and there's like electric and purple stuff all in the sky. By the end of the DLC, the aesthetics could be very, very different. Like I said at the start as well, grief's been found in the files, so I won't be surprised if we have grief on Liberty Falls, and it could be the Project Janus operators versus the imposter operators, whoever this elite unit are that are actually playing on Liberty Falls, because we know they're imposters, and Blanche's probably going to find out in the Liberty Falls quest. Maybe they were even sent there by Peck itself to try and get Richtofen's coordinates, or it could even be the Terminus crew versus whoever this elite unit are. So yeah, this is what I think the lineup is going to be for the 4 DLC maps for Black Ops 6 Zombies. Like I said, I could have the order wrong, however, I think we have the maps correct, so I think it's going to be the Keep, Dig Site, Janus Towers, and finally, Mansion. I think Mansion is probably the one that I'm most confident is correct, as well as the Keep. So I guess maybe Dig Site or Janus Towers could be interchanged. It all depends as well if the Dig Site is in Liberty Falls itself, because if it's in Liberty Falls itself, it could definitely be more than likely interchanged with Janus Towers. However, if it's elsewhere in the world, it's very likely to be DLC 1 or DLC 2. And yeah, it's crazy that this stuff has leaked out so early. Literally everything is constantly leaking. Treyarch have said that they plan to be very careful with the main quest so that the guided version of the quest doesn't leak out, so that we do it easier. However, considering all of this stuff is leaking out, I honestly don't know if I have confidence in Treyarch that stuff won't leak out. Literally everything's been leaking out. I mean, we literally have all of the campaign cutscenes and dialogue that have leaked, so almost nothing stays secretive nowadays. Now, it was pointed out to me on Twitter by FishyG23 that in the Terminus intro cutscene, when the security guard is looking at the surveillance monitors, there is actually one computer screen which shows various different locations on a map, and they were saying maybe these could be DLC maps. And they seem to show one location in West Virginia, which could be Liberty Falls itself, or maybe it's another location, or maybe it's one of these other maps, like I said, Janus Towers or something like that. Then it also showed somewhere in India, Brazil, the middle of China, and finally Russia. So it's possible that those are going to be DLC maps, and we know that Ernst Duffer, the interrogator on Terminus, also previously served at a hospital/prison in Berlin, Germany, so could that even be a DLC map? I think that these aren't DLC maps though, just because there is more than 4, and it's been leaked that there's only going to be 4 DLC maps. Again, that could be wrong, maybe we're going to be seeing more, especially because Treyarch have announced that there's a map coming out really early before the end of the year. But these are also, I guess, potentially other DLC maps, but they don't seem to align with the code names. I guess, like I said, Keep and Dig Site could literally be anywhere in the world, so maybe one of those will indeed be in India, Brazil, China, Russia. There is the possibility there. Most likely these are all Janus facilities as well. Janus probably have facilities around the world. It doesn't necessarily mean we're all going to head to them within DLC maps and the story. Maybe they could even be like Onslaught maps or something like that. So what do you think of all of this? That's all I wanted to say in this video. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.